My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Best Quality Vacuum, the Duckfeed show about Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul.
And this week we are living the Liv Moss lifestyle.
Yes. More. We're talking about more. Moss power. Yeah. We're talking about Moss. This episode directed by Johan Rennick, written by Moira Wally Beckett, and originally aired on April 18th, 2010.
Don't want to jump to the podcast stuff already, but this director, Johan Renck, does very good visual work. Just very one of the more cinematic of the directors I've noticed. The commentary is just full of the actors and the others impersonating this guy because he's a Swedish former rock star and apparently incredibly enthusiastic.
He sounds very funny.
Yes.
He knew the guys who are in the band that are providing this first scene.
Oh, cool.
He seems like a good guy to me. This is our final kind of place setting episode that we're going to have.
It is wild that we are going from this to 1 minute next time.
Yes. It's just, or Sunset is next. And then
Sunset is next. Yes, there we go.
But Sunset's also intense with the RV stuff. Like the season's really interesting. The way it's done that. It's we're putting everything in place and everything's going to fall down for the rest of the season. Skylar is softening up a little bit on her position on Walt and feeling a little bit cooler, on Ted. Hank spends the time on the case, obsessively hunting down RVs, as we mentioned. And Walt and Jesse don't get tons to do. We do get a really intense meeting between them. But their plot, again, we're setting the places for the supporting characters.
Yes. Yeah. The biggest beat that happens, across the entire series for this episode, is that Gus's ploy works. His whole gambit to appeal to Walt's pride to get him into cooking does succeed, not on its own merits, although it does soften him up. Primarily, he is seduced by the super lab, which we are introduced to this episode.
Yeah, it's a 1-2 punch. First appearance of Super Lab. That is a set. Which I assumed they didn't just didn't find this.
I was going to say that
detail.
That would really blow out the budget if they excavated that thing.
Or if they just we happen to find a meth super lab and decided to go with it. It's a set, but it looks so real. Like it's one of my favorite sets I've seen in a TV show. I think. Like I usually assume anything unusual is a set. This feels like a bunker to me.
You know what it is? It's the sound work. I think the fact that like very little is done to stop it echoing and feeling like a cavern.
Yeah, there's really, really good sound work. They also did, it's all foam board and plywood and bullshit materials, but there's a concrete veneer on everything. So it's real concrete. So that's why it texturally looks as such. Pretty neat. Commentary on this, it's a real monkey's paw thing. Since the beginning of this, I was like, I want you guys to talk about the character stuff, and they're doing it, but they're starting back as if they just first started it. So like Vince Gilligan is very sweet and he's in kind of teacher mode, and everyone in the podcast is kind of like cranky. It's like, why did he turn down that money from Gretchen? And then Vince says, why do you think he did that? Why do you do that? And then the writer of the actor, the director, Moira, is just like, well, he's discovered that his he's got this pride, and everyone's and I'm like, man, this is very obvious stuff from the start. I know I have hindsight, but
the cow does indeed go moo.
It is the cow does indeed go moo, and it makes me wonder. These people who work on the show who are not part of the writers' rooms, who are fans, I don't want to be too hard on them because I don't know to what degree they're actually invested in this, right? It's a story. This can be a job for them, and I respect that. The other thing just being, how much of this is my seeing the whole series. It feels obvious to me from the start, but if I were getting episode by episode and this close to it and experiencing it a different way, maybe I would also have Cow Goes Moo kind of insight, but it was pretty Cow Goes Moo.
Yeah. Felt like it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially it seemed pretty clear to me that that's why he turned it down. It's really the only reason.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I just mean like I can't not be me, right? So if I wasn't a fan of the show, let's say I was like worked on every fourth episode writing it, right? Like it might feel a little bit different. Yeah. And I was working in a room where everybody is group collaborating. Like I have a specific perspective, I guess. Yeah, it's not it's slightly more of what I want. There's also just a lot of production detail about the opening strip club scene. They close down the strip club is called All Fours.
I don't care for that.
I don't care for that. They shut it down, and it took a whole day to do. It's not an ongoing strip club. But they're very happy because they actually play the song that they play during the scenes. So they could have the characters move to it, as opposed to trying to edit it in post.
So they
were moving to the soundtrack.
So they had the rights. They knew that they were able to sync it to that. They didn't have to have a placeholder. They knew they had the rights, and they played it on set for everyone. And then there's this whole bit about whether the reason why it's easy to match people up to music in 4/4 is because Vince Gilligan's theory of people will match things up to things when they watch versus the editor's theory that people naturally move in 4/4. And I had one of those things where I was just like, I don't know. I'm not super Captain music or anything like that. I'm not, really, really deep in music theory or anything, but it is a thing where if people just kind of talk about it that way, I sometimes I'm like, that is not how that works. And I just kind of feel it instinctually. I know that they're not inherently naturalizing it because it could be you're exposed to you move in 4/4 because that's most of the music that you're exposed to, whatever. But that's generalizing to a lot of people, you don't
move in, you move it in a rhythm is all it is you take steps on roughly the same time between each step. So it matches up to 4/4 because most music's in 4/4, but it would match up to anything that's that BPM. You move, it's not in a beat or in a time signature. You just move at an interval usually, and what a lot of people are doing is walking or locomoting, doing things that are symmetrical. There's no reason to do them in polyrhythms. You don't walk 2 steps on one leg for every 5 steps on the other.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk 7/3s over to this convenience store.
That's an illithid curse. That is a psionic thing that is put on you.
Yeah, that means that you're a bug and you've just now gotten control of your body. It's or a Men in Black thing. It was just I really wanted to. I was like, no, this is just no. I just had a very intense talk to the podcast response.
The editor is right. People will want to sync stuff and also it can be made to to match as well.
It's made to match. I think that what Vince Gilligan was saying was that it's similar to how people will say Dark Side of the Moon syncs up. It's confirmation bias. You watch somebody sync up, do something to music, and you are seeing the things on the beats because you're ignoring the ones that aren't on the beats.
Right.
Which I think is largely true. When something is actually synced, you watch the beginning of Baby Driver, or something, which is literally about the main character and the world moving to a song. It happens in musicals and stuff too. Then you can see the difference. Between just kind of they're walking. Walking is in a pace.
Right.
They chose a song that's roughly the same pace as the movement in the scene.
It's the hits and misses bias, or kind of a form of pareidolia.
It's real weird, and it took a long time. And Vince Gilligan was very ginger about being I have a theory on that. I'm not trying to undo all the work you've done with your theory. He was us about it, which made me feel kind of good. He was real disclaimy. I was like, other people do that.
Yeah, there we go.
Being nice and southern.
Yeah. The commentary is fun because Bob Odenkirk is there. Anna Gunn does really good work on the commentaries as well, I've found. Nice. She is very charming when just not in the Skylar role. Yeah, no real production details. A lot of stuff about a lot of goofing around about the strip club at the beginning.
Yeah.
Some of the dancers and that were they just worked at that club. Like, hey, why would we
they just
go
hired
out?
Yeah, they hired actual sex, strippers, sex workers.
Yeah. The fun thing is that Dean Hank has a shower scene in this, and Dean Norris insisted on being fully nude.
Love it. He's they talk about that too a little bit on the podcast, and just how he's like, he's a serious and actually very sensitive actor. Like he's a goofball, but he actually takes that stuff very seriously. Like that wasn't him being like, that was him being a method actor. Like I'll get a more real performance from it.
Yeah,
from this, it was great. And of course, they were making fun of Bryan Cranston for contractually putting nudity in his contract and loving to be in his underwear and stuff in the podcast about that.
Of course. Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, we got a flashback. Moss. We got a flashback. We're back in the pilot now, where Walt is giving Jesse the money for the RV. It's his life savings, but Jesse says like, "Hey, this isn't enough money." Walt is assuming that he's going to bargain, right?
Yeah.
And we retcon, like we go and see the process of Jesse getting this RV after taking a stop at the strip club to blow Walt's life savings.
Yeah. He takes Walt's savings. He's like, how did I get this money? Because a dumb old man gave it to me. You're never going to believe this. It's nice to see Combo again.
Yep.
I don't like being in a strip club, but these guys look like they're having fun. It's real sweet. Give me that good champagne. That cheap stuff. What is it? Not Cristal.
Dom, he mispronounced it, but he's trying to say Dom Perignon.
He says Dom Perignon non. Like it's $400 a bottle. He's like, oh, well, I guess we'll just get two.
Yeah, and bring the skinny glasses.
Yeah, bring those long skinny glasses. James Bond drinks out of those. I'm all about that, yo. It's very funny.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But they're just having a really good time. And then they start doing coke or maybe possibly snorting meth. I don't know. They're taking shots.
They're taking powder.
Yeah, they're doing general powders.
We don't understand drug powder, and they're doing one. They're doing drug powder. And the important thing here, plot wise, is Combo gets out an instant camera and starts taking pictures. Yeah. Documenting this crime spree was the smartest thing we ever did.
Yep.
They go to leave. Skinny feet. That was awesome, bro. Pukes everywhere. Good to see him as well.
I love. It's been a while since we've seen Skinny Pete. I love whenever somebody vomits in the middle of a sentence and then finishes it. That is like a silver bullet comedy wise for me.
One of my friends growing up when we were all drinking became infamous for being like absolutely partied out, and he was sitting on the floor. And people being like, "Come on, man, let's get you to the bathroom. You're gonna be sick." And him being like, "Hold up," holding up one finger, vomiting on himself, and then getting up to go to the bathroom.
Oh God, that is professional grade. Yeah. That is so good.
Yeah, Joe, our buddy Joe. It was great. Joe also had like a vague British accent. Joe had a little bit of a holdover accent. He was not born in this country, he immigrated. So it was great. Like, hold up, like not quite that thick, but it was really great. So Jesse starts panicking. The cold light of morning has come. He's got so little money left, and he reminds everybody of something. He's being blackmailed into this. It's not like he can just be like, "Hey, free money, fucker."
Yeah.
They've taken this huge stack of money down to $1,400. And
I love Combo on hearing that they have $1,400. Like, well, Waffle House.
Yeah, that's great. Just cut to a Waffle House montage, the same music. But Jesse's, like, I have to. This guy, he's blackmailing me. He's got like a criminal mind. I need an RV. And Combo, good friend. He's like, I got you. I can hook you up. He's like, you can get me an RV for $1,400 at 6 a.m. He's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Good friend, bad son.
Yes. Yeah.
And we see Jesse seeing the RV for the first time. He's walking around it while Combo's inside doing whatever he needs to do. And this is really suspicious, right? Like Jesse hands over the money. Combo gets nervous. Like, yeah, no, there's like a no paper. Yeah, it's Seriously. No paperwork kind of thing. Like, you got to go. And then Jesse, backs away in a hurry and, runs into some trash cans and leaves.
Yep, gets his thing. This is going to come back in the end of the episode.
Yeah.
We cut over to Skylar. This is weirdly kind of a Skylar episode. Skylar gets a lot more screen time and focus than she usually does.
Yeah.
She's in Ted's bathroom, and it has heated floors.
Yeah.
And she's way into it.
Just like, yes. And, Ted's trying to play it off like, oh, the contractor talked me up to it. But this is, in stark contrast to the White House, which is falling apart. They got rot. They can't even heat their water, let alone their floor.
Yes. She can't find anything in her bag. And Ted's like, you could leave a few things here, like leave your toothbrush and stuff. Like, again, poor Ted.
Yes. Yeah.
Later, she's putting out plates for dinner. Sends Junior to go get Walt, who is in Holly's closet on the phone with Jesse.
Sitting on a tiny little chair.
The tiny chair comedy beat's really good.
Where he stands up and it's stuck to his ass and then falls off.
Yep. Yeah. They're talking about the end of the last episode. Like, he's like, no, somebody just came and gave me the money. Yeah. I didn't make a deal. Yeah, I am telling you that.
Yeah.
And this is Jesse over at Saul's.
Yeah.
Yelling at him.
Yeah. And Walt's telling him, like, no, absolutely not. You do not cook my formula. And Jesse loses it. And Saul is trying to de-escalate this, saying like, hey, and, Jesse makes a promise, I'll be a one-man glass factory. I'm going to keep that RV going 24/7. Like, this is now about spite more than anything.
It's spite meth. Yeah. And if you've ever done meth, you know that spite meth gets you the most high. That is the white powder of drugs that you crave. So it's a spite. It's a Hatfields and McCoys of meth.
Yes. Yeah.
We go over to watching through a night vision camera as Gomi is watching, rolling his eyes with his face, and Hank looking in an RV in the dark. Kind of similar. We know it's not because we can see there are no bullet holes on it.
Yeah. Similar to the one at the gas station camera, similar to Walt and Jesse's. Hank comes back and he's like, hey, I'm not really feeling this one. Like, we're in the middle of this. It's an RV park, right?
Yes. It's what a place to find an RV.
Yeah. And it's like, there's no smoke, there's no waste, there's really no evidence that this thing is being used. But Hank is obsessed and he's just muttering to himself, like, there's gotta be a way.
Well, and Gomi even says, like, we'll come back with a warrant.
Yeah.
At this point. But Hank's like, no way. He gets out, climbs on top of the RV to look through and sees a nude older couple, or, in their underwear, older couple playing poker on a dinette table, which is the life. That is what you want from RV.
Yes.
What a way to retire. That owns.
Gambling just feels better when you're playing on a surface that lowers to become the worst bed you've ever slept on.
Yes. Yeah. Usually the table usually doesn't. As somebody who's lived in an RV for a little bit, the table is solid.
Oh,
the bed's in the back.
Oh, so the RV that that my grandparents had, the table, you would pull a latch and then it would lower down. And it would lock in place and it would become a smaller bed or like a smaller sitting surface.
Gotcha.
And I have slept on that. Yes.
Yeah. The RV technology.
Mm-hmm.
They've advanced, luckily, but not this one.
Yeah. I just love them screaming.
The old lady, like, she saw a mouse, like a cartoon, and she saw a cartoon mouse. And we cut to the next morning, just showing how long it took to calm all this shit down, with all the RV people like milling about, and Hank working out with them. The lady is scowling. Love it.
Yeah, and they're not pressing charges. They're not going to make a stink about this. The guy's VFW, so he is fully copified. Is the implication there? And Hank, this is just the start, right? Like, hey,
you'll check a few more RVs, then call it a morning. Get an early start tonight.
Yeah.
But Gomi says no.
Yeah. And here is this small betrayal. Somebody needs to go to El Paso. And Gomi is. He says, I've got to go pack. And Hank gets him to say it, like, a pack for what? Pack for Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Hank is upset.
Yeah.
We go over to Marie putting, again, a truly psychopathic 4 Splendas into her coffee. As somebody who uses Splenda, they should have consulted me. One Splenda is like 2 or 4 sugars in terms of sweetness.
Yeah. Marie's not going to need to be embalmed.
Yeah, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Putting these in when Hank comes home, goes immediately to the bathroom. He's not responding. He's in a bad mood because of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, she tries to tell him, like, hey, those RVs aren't going anywhere. And Hank is being not
He's
kind
being
of,
a dickhead.
very, very shitty to her. Like, the recreational vehicles, Marie, that's what they do.
Yeah.
go places.
She's just trying to convince him to go to sleep. He just got back in the AM and he's just going back out after the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, hey, I talked to Gomi's wife, Mrs. Gomi. Hello. Gomi comes downstairs and Blanca, hello, Gomi. Like, asks how he feels about Gomi going to El Paso. And Hank's like, oh, good man. She should go. And Maria's trying to get him to talk and they can't talk.
Yeah.
He keeps saying that she's upset because she wants a nice house in Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's mad about his career.
Yeah.
And she's just trying to connect with him. Like, keep me looped in. I know you're going through something.
Yeah. I'm just like, don't you worry about my career. My career is just fine. Just trying to get her to go away.
She's not worried about his career. It's very classic. Again, the show about broken masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Hank is this whole a man provides shit, right? Like he's not. It's this. There are so many like parallels in this show of characters that are shadows of other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're misunderstanding. So like Hank and Marie's conflict is never economic.
No,
they
live in a fucking palace.
Yeah, they live in a very nice house. Maria's she'd want to go to Washington and have this nice townhouse in Georgetown or whatever. She's never upset about that with Hank during their entire arc. But that's how Hank frames it, because Hank is a man provides pilled. Like, I have to do this for my wife. This is a masculinity thing. Like, he's obsessed on top of that, but it's the only way he can frame her being upset.
Yeah,
because they don't talk to each other.
No,
bad marriage.
And she asks, did you not want to go? And this is armor piercing. And he starts yelling, like, I'm on to something. I'm going to do some actual good.
Yeah, everyone's everyone against me.
Yes.
Like everyone is fucking with me. Do you fucking hear me? He's yelling and she already left.
Yeah.
He's a very sad scene.
Fully spiraling. He is spinning out, melting down, not unlike a toddler.
Yeah. Screaming at your wife. Never a good sign.
Yeah.
So we go over to Gus's office. Walt drops the money on Gus's desk, and says, what is this? Gus deflects and he says, I think this is an obvious ploy to get me cooking again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really great because Gus is smarter than Walt, but he's letting Walt play chess junior at him. It's,
he's just sitting there silently and making Walt, making Walt spit himself out, right?
Making him go do his parlor scene.
Yeah.
About all of this stuff, like he's like, I know you said Jesse be cooking again. I know you'd never work with a junkie. And Gus is like, you told me that you vouched for him. I took you at your word. Gus is playing such a slimy shit during this. Just watching one person be played as an instrument in a scene in this is pretty, like, Gus is the master of the shit in the show.
He's very good at it. I'm told this product was more or less consistent with the quality that I come to expect.
Yeah. And again, perfect word choice. Right? Like, that's plausible, but it lets Walt feel smart for being more or less. That's setting the bar very low. You don't do that. There's no more or less.
And God, and just the delivery on this, Cranston is playing it like, Walt,
like
Walt's
Columbo.
He thinks he's got him, right?
Yep,
like, yes. And he has properly identified what Gus is doing, but he thinks that he is not falling into the trap.
Yes.
And he is he is saying things that, if he believed them, would actually demonstrate a certain amount of
uncommonly self-aware.
Uncommonly self-aware. But like, he thinks that he's in complete denial. He is so oblivious about his own inner workings, while still being able to identify that other people see it in him. Yes,
it's a very smart scene. Like, this is when I talk about good dialogue and bad dialogue. If especially if we're talking about like a video game, right? And somebody's just directly saying everything they feel directly at the camera, and it drives me nuts. This is the kind of thing I want. It doesn't. I don't want all characters just kind of like gaming each other all the time. But this kind of dramatic irony and characters with secondary motivations playing against each other is really. This is what makes dialogue pop. This is great. So he says, therefore, what conclusion am I left to draw? That you believe I have some proprietary kind of selfishness about my own formula, some sort of overweening pride, I suppose. Do you think that you think simply overwhelms me, clouds my judgment? And Gus, again leads him on. But it doesn't.
And God, I love this too. Like how much freight is in this one sentence, this one response that Walt puts out. Absolutely not. I respect the chemistry. The chemistry must be respected. Walt is so identified with the concept of chemistry. Like he is saying he is the paragon of this. He is the avatar of molecules interacting with each other. He is just he is literally just reiterating what is true, but in a diluted way. Like he might as well.
On top of I respect the chemistry being a acceptable version of I have some overweening pride and selfishness, proprietary selfishness of my own formula. Respect the chemistry is the acceptable version of that.
I will wink when I say chemistry, so when I say chemistry I mean Walt. I respect the Walt. The Walt must be respected.
Yeah, very, very good. Gus says, I'm sorry for being so transparent. Take a drive with me. He's got another card to play. He's already softened him up real good.
Just got to show him the toys. So Skylar drives back to Ted's and watches him get home in his slick BMV.
Just waits for him to go in. Like they've got this kind of staggered entry system that they're doing. It's really weirdly creepy.
A
little bit.
And Marie calls ostensibly to talk about Holly, saying like, oh, I could just keep her for the next 18 years. We'll play her cards right. And Skylar senses that something's wrong with her, right? And Marie tries to deflect by saying like, hey, where are you? Like, oh, I'm at work, don't worry. And Skylar presses further, and Marie admits what she actually wants to talk about, what is actually looming large in her mind, that something's wrong with Hank. There's been no communication since El Paso, something is wrong with him and he refused to go back.
Yes. And Skylar's like, yeah, of course that would change him. And Marie says, he's just not the same. He's not. Facing death, it changes a person. It has to, right? I guess it must have changed Walt. And this is the part of the inroad of getting Skylar to decide to break bad as opposed to, reject a Walt.
Right. Yeah.
As we're going to find.
She kind of needed to see it modeled in somebody else, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So Gus is not driving Walt out in the desert to execute him. Instead, he is leading Walt into this laundromat that we have seen before. This is where Gus received the call, where Victor received the call previously, and leads Walt back to the industrial dryer that tilts forward. I really should have known that they were doing this, because why would they actually dig a stairwell in this functioning laundromat or laundry or what have you? But the fact that they're literally just doing the Austin Powers "watch me go down the stairs" when they go behind this thing is very disappointing to me for some reason. I understand that I am saying that I wish I could believe in Santa still, but
sure, like a kind of Santa. It's very funny to me that they do this. I also this hidden passage, like I understand you couldn't just have a door. I think it's really slick, but it's also, I find, very funny. It's 10% too cartoon. It's not like the guy from the last episode that was 100% too much cartoon. This little dryer that tilts forward is 10% too much cartoon, and I love it. It's just the right amount of spice for this. It's like a little bit of peanut butter on a burger. They go down there and they play. This is a minor nitpick out of this episode. This mystical, magical forest music they play.
It might as well be pure imagination.
Yeah, it's a little heavy-handed, I think. And Gus knows he's got him. Walt's like, "What is this?" He goes, "Your new lab." He's referring to everything, as present, as if it's already a done deal. As Walt admires the equipment.
Looks down at this just cavernous space where all this stainless steel, the lab equipment is still wrapped in plastic, right?
Yes.
And he is just uncontrollably horny. He is going around, look at the
28 liters. Oh, this is a catalyst.
The thorium oxide catalyst bed. Look at the size of this reaction vessel.
He's really losing it.
This is everything he feels he was denied from gray matter, right?
Yep.
Except
for making meth, specifically. Like it's the stature without the specificity. Walt says, how did you put all this together? And he's like, I had excellent help, as will you. Again, he's already in. And he explains his cover, which is excellent. I've owned this laundromat for years. They receive large chemical shipments all the time. The filtration is top of the line. The only thing that comes out is steam, and it comes out through the same stacks. And he lays it out, and it's a cherry job. I need to make this economically viable. I need 200 pounds per week. You'd obviously come and go as you please, make your own hours as long as the quota is met. That's what you want in a job, baby.
Oh yeah.
That's slick. All of my W-2 jobs felt super demoralizing because of all the times where like, there's nothing to do. Like, this is stupid. I've already finished my work. Why can't I just get paid for my work? Why do I have to sit here?
It's good to be paid for results.
Yes.
It is perfect. A direct contrast to working as a teacher. Right.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And Walt's, he seems like he's gonna go for it, but still says no. He just like, no, I've made a series of very bad decisions, and I cannot make another one. This is like post-nut clarity for him. Like he knows that this is too much. He
came 128 liters in the reaction vessel. That's how he knows how much it holds. And Gus says, "Why did you make those decisions?" For my family. If you made them for family, they weren't bad. What does a man do, Walter? A man provides for his family. And Gus says, these decisions, or Walt says, these decisions lost my family. And Gus says, as long as you have a child, you always have family.
And this is one of the most famous and important monologues from the series, and this again shows Gus has Walt's number so hard. Like 100%, this is a sniper shot. A man provides, and he does it even when he's not appreciated or respected or even loved. He simply bears up and he does it because he's a man.
Yep. And which is not necessarily something Gus believes.
No.
Right? Like, this has nothing to do with Gus's lifestyle. This is Gus's canny understanding specifically of Walt and of people in general.
This is Hannibal Lecter shit.
Yeah. Like, Gus is a chilling character in this show, just generally, and in Better Call Saul. And this is why, right? Like, doing this kind of research to figure out the Vorpal words to manipulate people.
Yeah. And it works. Like, Walt's eyes are wet listening to this, and it feels like somebody has given him all of the justification that he needs, shown him exactly what he wants, and made an impassioned case that feels airtight for why he should pursue it.
And why he's not a bad person, in retrospect. Like, this is okay. Anyone would have done it. It's good cop shit. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Next morning, Skylar is trying to get out of Ted's, get out of her house and get home. Her feet squirm on the tile, a little bit on the nose. This thing that was a sign of luxury that she was enjoying, she's now feeling a little bit uncomfortable about.
Yes.
So she puts the towel down.
Yeah. Cut to dinner, and Junior is telling this story, and Skylar's laughing. And Walt is, kind of separated from the two of them on the screen by this bar of darkness made by shooting through these French doors. Good shot.
Yeah. Junior excuses himself, and the camera shifts this darkness to split down the middle between Walt and Skylar. They're left alone, and they don't want to look at each other. They have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
But Skylar offers an olive branch. Holly cries, and Skylar asks if Walt wants to take her. And Walt, again, looks like he's going to cry.
Yeah.
He smiles.
Yeah. And so he picks up Holly and holds her, smiling, looking outside, and Skylar leaves the table while he's looking away. And he's gotten what he wants, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's gotten the thing he wants, but this isn't, this is how I win Uncut Gems smile. This is genuine.
Yeah.
Like he could actually want to hold his daughter too. Yeah, I'm not saying you're not saying that. I'm just saying this is not him turning around and doing Gus shit.
No, like this is not
a fairly human moment.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. That I didn't mean to imply that this was some kind of like manipulation.
He smiles because he got what he wanted.
I don't think he put a thumbtack in there so Holly would roll onto it and cry, and he would take his moments.
He's imprinted himself into Holly by creating a Bryan Cranston golem that she calls Mama when she hugs the legs of Food Pellet comes out. This is how he wins.
Walter Wire monkey.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Hank's out. He's on the phone and he's chasing down these leads. Or no, he's in the office.
He's in his office.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Ostensibly, his best friend is having a going away party.
Mm-hmm.
Great characterization bit.
Mm-hmm.
He crosses the last name off the RV list, and a woman's coming by with a cake to the party. He's like, "Hey, can you check the DMV again?" And she's like, "No, I'm carrying a fucking cake.
I'm all holding
partying
cake.
for Gomi, Gomi." And he kind of begs. He gives her puppy dog eyes, like, "I'm dead in the water here. Like, you had to help me." He will have given it similar to Walt. He will have given up so much.
Yeah.
If this is all for nothing, right?
Right.
This what he's been through. I understand that he's not necessarily interested in El Paso, but there's like a parallel there.
Yes.
Lowercase p parallel.
Mm-hmm. So Hank goes out to put in his time with Gomi. Right.
Yeah, he does a thing I love when Hank's going through a thing where he has to stop and put on his face.
Mm-hmm.
He takes 2 steps out the door, looks out, takes a breath, and then puts on his like super jocular uncle. Mode.
Yeah. And if it falls into the old pattern, right? He can do this macro where he just makes a racist remark about how he's going to fit in better with the Spanish speakers, giving them shit, right?
Yeah.
And Hank gives him a gift, something he learned from the last time he was there. Gave him a little bust of Jesus Malverde, the patron saint of the cartels, saying like, know your enemy and all, fight the good fight, brother, kind of saying what he needs to say.
Yeah. And Hank can't quite keep up eye contact. They look each other in the eye. It was understanding. Then he's like, "Where can I get a drink?" And then they cut to this hilarious. I'm so glad this cake is so funny.
Well, I remember there was almost an identical cake that was shown previously.
It's great. Whoever they have doing their cake, it's real good. This one is this like really horrible drawing of Gomi holding a U.S. and Mexican flag at the same time. And just cutting across the American flag as soon as they cut to it. It's a very funny shot.
Oh gosh. But the woman who was carrying the cake, brings Hank a report about this final RV. There's another one that matches. Right. Yeah. Its registration was never renewed, but it was never filed as inoperable or destroyed. And there was no police report. Like something weird's going on. Right.
Yep. There's one final RV.
Yeah.
We cut to the back to the White House. Skylar is taking the laundry to Walt's little pad in Holly's room, and she looks through it first. Before this money thing, she's just kind of seeing. I think that I read this as like guilt for making somebody live like this.
Mm-hmm.
One of we are on team Skylar on this show. I think that what she does is justified in this. I'm not mad at her for cheating, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
A thing in her character though is that she still does care about Walt.
Yeah.
On a level. So seeing this kind of like laying out a pallet on the floor, all these books everywhere and stuff, but then as she's going through and getting the laundry, she notices a bag on the closet shelf.
Big ominous duffel bag on the top shelf there. And she can't contain her curiosity. She pulls it down and opens it up and sees that it is full of cash. This is his stash. And her breath catches, right?
Yep. We cut over to her at her divorce attorney, and she's basically just, pouring her heart out.
Yeah.
Using her as a therapist. I'm twice as expensive and half as qualified as a therapist. She does not. The therapist knows that this isn't right. She's like, I use a glass of wine right now. Do you want to? And just laying it out, and it's pertinent divorce stuff.
Yeah.
But this is
it's
really selling past the close.
Yeah.
It's to this lawyer. It's like, you already know what to do. And this is all just making my case stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Breaking news. I'm sleeping with my boss and I don't know why. And she's like, wow. And she tries to justify it, but it is very half-hearted. Saying like, "Oh, he's a good person," and then she just kind of trails off.
Yep. And she's like, this family, this advice you gave me, I'm supposed to tell them. My family, my teenage son calls me a bitch. And you tell me that I should tell him the truth. That's ludicrous. I can't do that. And I think the reason why I'm with Ted is the only time, when I'm with him, it's the only time I don't feel like I'm drowning.
Yeah.
The attorney says, "Oh, Walt knows about the affair," and Skyler's like, "No, he won't sign."
Yeah. It's a really great gambit on my part. Genius. Yeah. And she's right. She tried and it failed. And then she brings up the money that she found in the house. Not good from an accessory after the fact kind of case, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't count it, but it's heavy," right? Like the attorney is asking pertinent questions, and then she just straight up asks, like, "Are you asking my permission to spend this money?" Skyler lies and sputters. It just and then she lays it down. "Let me just say I'm half disqualified. Like you said, I'm not a therapist. Like you know what you have to do."
Yep. Skyler says, "Listen, me and Walt have a history, and she's like, he did it for family." And the attorney says, "Well, guess what? That's one enormous load of horseshit. You are a fool to stay in the house for 1 minute longer. Your husband won't leave, then you go. You are now an accessory after the fact. Like you are going to jail.
Yeah.
All as a courtesy of this criminal you refuse to divorce." All business. The opposite of a cartoon.
Yeah. I didn't marry a criminal. Well, you're married to one now. Like just the hard truths, but she's already made up her mind, right? Yes. She is seeking some kind of justification from a source that she ought to know is not going to give it to her.
Yep. And Skyler comes home ready to, do something, but notices that Walt's stuff is gone. He has taken the money and he's signed the divorce papers. He left them in the crib. Again, a little on the nose. Yeah.
5% too cartoonish.
Yeah. So we cut over to Jesse with Saul in his office. And Saul says, "I know you're sober, but can you take an Xanax? I got a drawer full of them here." Vietnamese chiropractor. She does what is it, like
she adjusts you to completion. Says her name and just goes, "As delicious as it sounds." I should give you her card.
because Jesse's pacing and he's rattling his saber at this point. He is not happy to see Walt. Sure.
No. It knows this is going to be tense. It's not going to be good. And Walt shows up and he's late for the meeting. He kind of big timed him, right? And Saul lays out this deal saying basically Walt is going to get royalties, monthly payment, passive income, just for letting Jesse
just
cook.
For walking to the mailbox. 10%, which is 10% of this thing would have been pretty good for doing nothing.
Yes.
Jesse calls it charity.
He can't help himself but to twist the knife on this. It's charity for just sitting on your fat ass.
Yep. Saul's like, hey, stop escalating. There's the little matter of the money. There's some confusion, and Walt hands over the money. With no hesitation at all, because he's big timing him. This is a parallel of the Gus scene a little bit. Jesse thinks he's getting one over on Walt, and Walt is in control. Similar to Walt thinking he was getting one over on Gus, but Gus was in control.
Yeah. What can you actually do to stop me from doing this? Right.
Yes.
Like if it is just Walt, then ... but it's not. And Walt says, enjoy it, spend it in good health. That is the last money you will ever earn in this business.
Yeah. And he's like, what do you mean? And he says, I hate to break it to you. And this is, he's really twisting the mustache here. Gus was only using you to get to me. And not, I'm cooking it again. Jesse is flabbergasted by this. He's like, how should I put this? I'm in, you're out.
And Saul, again, another thing that I love comedy wise, it's really exemplified in the It's Always Sunny episode where they're taken hostage by the McPoyles. And just when Dee gets Stockholm syndrome, and then just is like slowly as she's talking, she moves over to the McPoyle side, like physically walks over to stand next to them. Saul does this, as he's hearing this information for the first time. he steps out from behind the desk and walks over to start making the deal to like touch the hem of Walt's garment, because now he knows where the money is, right?
How much was the deal? And Walt also was counting on this, right?
Yeah,
like Walt doesn't know how to launder money, so $3 million for 3 months of my time. And Saul's like, hey, what was, you're gonna need that laundry, what was that deal we used to have? 15 or 17%, let's do 15, that's more reasonable. And Walt's in a great position of power here, just keeps countering with 5, over and over.
How about 14, 5, 12, 5. And then Saul says, 10 even, but I can't go any lower and still respect myself. And Walt just like barely turns to leave, and he goes, 5.
Jesse is flipped out at this point. He's like, hey, you're my attorney. And Saul says, it's the way of the world, kid. You go with the winner.
Yeah.
At this point, he's very upset about that. He says, hey, this won't stop me from cooking. And Walt says, that's fine. Do what you want. Well, as long as you're ridiculous. I hate this line.
Chili pea
or some such dreck.
Yeah, no.
That's not a thing real people say. That's a Shadowrun slang. I understand that it really is a slang, but I've never heard anyone use it in real life.
Yeah.
Really unnatural. Or some such dreck.
Yeah. He's trying to talk like a villain at this point.
Yes. As long as it's not my formula. And Jesse says, just try and stop me, bitch.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse does something amazing, runs outside and throws a hunk of concrete through Walt's windshield, then pulls away.
I'm probably not going to act on this, but my first response to seeing this was, you could do that? Like, just like, like if you're in a parking lot, and you can probably get away with something like this. Shit. I don't know. I'd never done it before, but it did. I don't know. It was kind of fun to watch.
It seems very fun. On the set, they had a wager about what would happen when he did it, because he actually picked this up and threw it. This isn't an effect or anything. And people were betting like, okay, is it going to bounce off? Is it going to like stick partway through? Is it going to go all the way through? And they like had it so they had tons of cameras around, but they had it so they could swap out the windshield and reset it if they botched the take or whatever. He got it in one. Nice. And it's the funniest possible outcome, which is he throws it on there, it shatters, but then bounces off.
It's both, shatter and a bounce. So we that's the last we see of him. We go to Hank, and we're wrapped around. This is my favorite time they've done this wraparound so far, of having the cold open come back and the like post. The final stinger. It's really good.
What about Better Call Saul, though?
It's really good. That's a great one. I'm just saying this is also a real good one.
This is really good. Yeah. But Hank is chasing down this last RV that Janice brought to him, and he is at the house from the beginning of the episode, where Combo got the RV. And what woman comes to the door? It's Combo's mom. Saying like, hey, just is there an RV that you had, like you just like where'd it go? It's like, oh, it was stolen, but I never reported it because I didn't get around to it. She smells a cop and is being kind of evasive around it
for like 2 seconds. She immediately crumbles before cop force.
Yes. Well, also like, well, what's the point? Exactly. The person she was trying to protect is gone.
Protect is no longer protectable.
And Hank's little line here, like, I gotta ask why you did that. It's a great way to get the family together for an affordable vacation.
It's a very funny line. And she's like, I didn't want to see him arrested. As my son. Hank says, I'd really like to speak to him. And she says, can't, he passed away. He was shot 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We cut. She's letting Hank dig around his room. And we get to see Combo's room. I love seeing a character's space. It's why I like immersive sims.
Yeah.
I want to see all the characters in Breaking Bad's bedrooms.
Yeah.
And you get to see a little snapshot into what Combo's like.
Yeah. A big KRS-One poster on the door.
I love that. Big wrestling fan. You're like fighting rather, has like a boxing poster. He's got video games, Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation, a bag of combos that was signed by somebody. And you don't get to read the signature or something. And the creator of combos. Like signed by General Mill himself or something like
that. And tons of dried old flowers on the bed. Like the space has been preserved, but also all of the memorial flowers have been kind of kept on this, on the shrine. And they talk about it in the commentary, but it's very appropriate. Combo's mom is not playing this big. She's obviously, grieving. This is still fresh. It was like 2 months ago or something like that. But clearly she's feeling this absence, regardless of, she even says like, yeah, he hung out with bad people, but I know he wasn't bad himself. Right.
Yeah.
And the important thing, as Hank is going in here trying to, get a sense of what's going on, trying to chase this lead, looking for anything. Remember how they were taking instant photos at that strip club? Well, on the entertainment center is a little framed photo of Combo and Jesse at the strip club with the dancers' tits on their heads.
Yeah. And of course, Hank recognizes Jesse.
Yeah, here's Pinkman again. This face that just keeps turning up.
This stripper photo is actually tucked into the corner of a framed photo, covering it up, which I think is great.
Yeah,
fuck that shit. Here's the time I got tits on my ear.
Yeah,
I got poof
from Dragon Quest,
and I had to show it off. But yeah, that's the episode. Like this is the most solid lead Hank has ever had.
Yeah,
right. Like this is intense, and this is going to start this cat and also cat that we're going to get through this. Like this is the last place setting episode of the season. We are now off to the fucking races.
Yeah.
It's not all octane from here on out. That'd be exhausting. But many of the very memorable action scenes and kind of tension scenes come up during this episode. ICU, a minute, obviously Sunset. The next 3 are full action.
Bangers.
Absolute bangers. Super good. Great episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Real tense. I mean, ends with an amazing cliffhanger. It's the most trouble that Jesse has been in. Like,
yes,
it's a huge eureka moment and a huge win for Hank, who has been grasping at straws noticeably this entire time. Just at complete ends. Finally gets his W. Right. Yeah. And it is something that I love about really good police procedural kind of stuff, which is you seeing the case from both sides and kind of rooting for both. Like it is the coolest thing about that genre to me.
Yeah. It is a huge thing if you ever end up watching The Wire. It does that.
I've seen The Wire, dude.
Oh yeah, I was talking to people.
Okay.
Like if you end up watching The Wire, I always ginger about recommending it because White Dude recommends The Wire is
right.
So if you decide you'll want to watch The Wire is really good. Yeah. It is always 2 sides against the middle for the entire series, and those sides change. It does Deuteragonist, really, really well.
Yeah.
You are never just straight up rooting for somebody.
Yeah. Its reputation is earned. There's a reason. There's a cliche about saying it's good.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it. But I also, that's one of my favorite things. It's certainly police procedurals. It's even just a thing with good antagonists in general. I want to root for both sides.
Yeah.
Great episode. Much better place setting episode than the last one. The humor mix was better. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and give us some dollars.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate it.
It unlocks a whole bunch of extra content, some of which is also about media. Things like our show about horror movies. During the strike, we're covering a whole bunch of different kinds of stuff. Unfilmable is what that is. That's at the $5 tier. If you want to hear about video game movies and related media, Adaptation Decay is there at the $10 tier. The whole bunch of stuff on offer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We think it is a good deal.
Yeah.
So join us. You can also leave us ratings, reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict. And we'd like you to join us in thanking our producer, Gwen.
Yeah. If you see her out there on the internet, say thank you.
Perhaps at a Trash Sound Conglomerate show.
Yeah. That is her band. Tell her she does good work. Yeah.
Yeah. And until next time, boy, if destroy your RV, just in case. Now, it probably hasn't been used for this, but go get it destroyed.
Man, I don't know. It'd be pretty cool to have an RV.
You say that, but you're gonna get hacked.